Hello readers, it's Tilly here from Tilly Shelf. I'm going with hello as opposed to good morning or good afternoon because I'm not entirely sure what time of day it's supposed to be. I did a night shift last night and then I came home and I went to bed and I slept for half an hour and then my body decided that it wanted to be awake again, which is just completely inconvenient. However, I have been passing the time watching people's Cromwellathon videos up to now, and I have actually just this morning on the bus on the way home caught up with Cromwellathon. So I started significantly later than most people. I started the first week's reading this week, which I guess has the advantage that I've been able to read it quicker. I know my brother has been struggling with the slower pacing. But yeah, I'm finally at the point that I was supposed to be at yesterday. So that's a good thing. And I thought now was a good time to kind of check in with things. And I've watched people's videos, so I've kind of seen what people are talking about. Yeah, don't excuse me, don't expect anything particularly articulate from this video. So I've got form when it comes to finishing night shifts, not sleeping very well, and then whinging out about books that other people really like. This happened previously with the sonnets, but let's not go back there, because I don't even really agree with a lot of the things that I said then. But I don't like Wolf Hall as much as everybody seems to kind of say that you should like it. I mean, it's a book that has got this immense, like, weight behind it. It was a Man Booker Prize winner. It started this series. It's been recorded for TV, I think. It's been said it's like one of the books of this century so far. It kind of made Mantel as an author like a real household name, and it's a book that even if people haven't read it, you'll say, oh, I'm going to read Wolf Hall, or I have been saying to people I'm going to read Wolf Hall, and they're all like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. So it's a really, really like well recognized book. I like it. I definitely like it. It's got the urge factor, as in, like, when I'm not reading it, I have the urge to pick it up and read more of it. And that's a really, really good thing in a book. It's really important. It's got characters that I care about, that I want to see what happens to them, even though I kind of know a lot because of English history lessons. But I just don't think that it's quite as amazing as people seem to say that it is. And I should really justify that opinion by bringing up some examples. So, spoilers, but I'm assuming anyone who's watching this is participating in Cromwellathon. Just really struggling with articulation these days. Yeah, so one thing that upset me somewhat was we got introduced to Cromwell's wife, Liz, and she was shaping up to be this really, really interesting character who was bringing a very new perspective onto things. So she was coming in saying, oh, people are talking about this emerald that's been bought, you know, like this is what people are saying in the city about it, you know, what does the cardinal know about this? And she was kind of bringing this kind of more kind of layman's perspective, or a perspective outside of the cardinal's direct circle into Cromwell's story. And also this feminine perspective that I think my mum and my brother were talking about, where she says, you know, like, if the king persists in this, half of the people in the world will be upset by it, where she's talking about how every woman is affected by the decision on whether or not Henry can divorce his first wife. Like, that is something that has an immensely powerful set of implications for married women anywhere. So I really like the perspective that character brought in. And then straight away in the next chapter, just as a complete throwaway line, Cromwell's like, oh, I haven't got a family anymore. And it's like, oh, okay, so Liz is dead. And I was really disappointed reading that line, because I really, really wanted more from Liz. And I know that history, you know, like, Mantel is working with a set of events that are fixed. Like, she doesn't have full free reign on the plot of this. And then she does go back in time. So she goes back in time and looks back at Liz's death in a way that should be very moving. But I think I would have found it more moving if it hadn't been I like foreshadowing is not the word for it. Foreshadowing should be something subtle, but it's just blatantly told. And to me, that took away from the emotional weight, because when she reappeared as a character in these flashbacks, I was like, don't get too attached. She's gonna die sometime soon. And do you know that thing when you're watching a murder mystery, and you know that obviously somebody's gonna die because it's a murder mystery, and one of the characters is like, oh, I think I know somebody who's done something that they shouldn't. I think I might know who has been blackmailing somebody or whatever. You're like dead by the end of the scene. And there's this scene where Cromwell wakes up, and Liz is like, oh, tell me when you're going to be home. And I was like, she's going to be dead before he gets home. It's obvious. And she is. And I just felt like if we hadn't had... I felt like the ordering was wrong. Like that there was no need to put this scene... So we kind of go from Cromwell as a child, then we jump forward to, I think, 1527 or 28, and then we jump backwards again to 1521. I think it should have been done in a more linear way. I think it should have gone from Cromwell as a child to Cromwell in the 1520s. And I would have liked to hear more about his life as a soldier, rather than it just being kind of peppered in as little flashbacks and comments. I would have liked to have seen a few scenes of that, because that would make me believe in him slightly more as a character. There's a bit that Jason, who is hosting this read-along from Old Boots Chapter and Verse, pulled out as an example of Mantell's like brilliant writing, where she talks about who Cromwell is as a character, and it's like, oh, he's a man that can do this and that and this and that and this and that, and he's like, oh, this is good writing. To me, that's really not. That's telling me what the character is. I would rather have had a few short scenes of Cromwell as a soldier and as a merchant that proved to me that he was those things, rather than just being told, oh, he's all these things by now. Because I don't value that kind of paragraph, and it doesn't... I don't get a kind of a proper feel from it. And I would have rather it had been told more chronologically. Like, I like a little bit of flashback, but I felt that was a little bit too disjointed and a little bit too heavy on the foreshadowing side of things. And there's other things as well, like when they were talking about Lady Anne, future Queen Anne, and they said something, Cardinal Wolsey interferes with her marrying the man that she wants to marry, and she makes some kind of threat, or like, she says basically I'll get my revenge for this, and they laugh about how she thinks that she is an important enough person for that to be a big deal. And then there's a comment of like, oh, of course we had no idea how much power she would rise to. Like, we don't need that comment. We know who Lady Anne is going to become. That's the beauty of writing a piece of historical fiction that is grounded in such important and well-recognised events. Most people know at least a little bit about Anne Boleyn. And if they don't, like, it will probably be at least on the blurb. I just found it a little bit heavy-handed. And at other points as well, I find some of the metaphors used just a little bit too obvious. I don't know. Maybe I'm being like overcritical here. The writing as a whole is really pleasing. I agree with what Jason says about her ability to capture a character in a very few short sentences, which is very important when there are so many characters. It can be a little bit difficult at times to just differentiate them all. But I think her writing style really helps with that and helps you to keep track of things. And like I said, it does have that factor of really making you want to read more, even though the chapters are like insanely long. It's got quite a lot of emotional power, particularly, I didn't find the death scenes particularly moving. I think that is partially to do with how things have been at work lately. But I didn't find those specific scenes as moving as other people have, but I found the scenes where he is grieving to be extremely powerful. When he was talking about he's holding the book that he's held with his wife and his daughter, and somebody comes in and he's like, oh, you're just reading this book, you're praying over this book, and they don't understand that it's not actually a religious act of devotion that he is experiencing. I love that scene, and there's definitely some seriously good writing in this. But yeah, I just kind of disagree on some aspects. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on the first chunk of Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. And I will try and check in with the read along as it progresses, hopefully in a slightly less exhausted state. And yeah, I was going to say I'm hoping to enjoy it more. I think like if I was a person who was rating books already from the first chunk, I would say this is a solid 4 stars. Like, this is a good book. It's just not marvellous, if that makes sense. The other thing that I wanted to show you while we're talking about Cromwellathon is this little book that I got in Waterstones. It was actually completely free, and I think it's a thing that they're doing. So Waterstones is the place where, if you're in the UK, you can pre-order The Mirror and the Light. As it says, it's not a sticker, it's actually part of the cover, which I have done. I ordered it for Ros for Christmas. So she will be like ready to go with the third month of the read-along. And I think they've done it because obviously Wolf Hall came out in 2009, Bringing Up the Bodies was 2012. I think they're thinking that people will have forgotten a little bit what went on in Wolf Hall, and will want a reminder. So basically this is the world of Wolf Hall, and it has got character lists, it's got a plot summary so far, and then excitingly it has got an essay on the revolutionary nature of the books, and then a summary of the main themes. Following on from that, there's a whole chunk that's just like quotes in praise of Wolf Hall, which just, you know, I don't need that. Generally, like, I'm not somebody who gets swayed by quotes on the front of books saying, this is the most amazing book ever, because, well, as you've seen from this video, I generally tend to then want to disagree with somebody who says things like that. But then right at the end, it's got some book club questions. So I was thinking we could maybe raise some of these. Yeah, so for example, was Cardinal Wolsey brought down by his own ambitions or by the conceits and temper of Henry? What about Thomas More? So, interesting, discuss. I personally don't see Cardinal Wolsey as a very ambitious character, which I think is all about how Hilary Mantel has written him, because I think in history he is quite ambitious, but she has the knack of making him look like he is somehow modest, despite all of his kind of finery and his ambitions towards being Pope. Yeah, so I'm not going to read all of them because I think they will have some spoilers and overlap with Bringing Up the Bodies, which obviously we're hoping to read next month. But yeah, I'm hoping to bring some of this into the discussion. I don't know whether anyone else has seen it at all anywhere. But yeah, they just gave it to me in Waterstones. It was on the side and I was like, oh, can I have a look at this? And they were like, it's free, take it. You don't have to ask me twice. Yeah, so anyway, thank you to Jason for coming up with this. I feel like this is like 50% of the people participating in this read-along are my family, because my mum at Scandally... It's a long word to say when you're this tired. Scally-dandling about the books, has been reading it, and she has got my brother Alfred and my dad Steve completely on board with it as well, and they have got some lovely discussions over on Roz's channel, and I'm really sad that I can't be there to discuss it with them in person. So maybe that's also why I'm a little bit bitter about this whole experience. But anyway, happy reading to everyone. I hope you all enjoy the next week's worth of Cromwellathon. Take care. Bye.